How is the recirculating gas flow temperature maintained within the Centrifan PE? The temperature in the Centrifan PE is controlled by this front panel device. This is a temperature controller. It's only a heating controller, so the temperature in the Centrifan PE works from ambient up to 55 degrees C max. If you want to evaporate at colder temperatures, you can take the whole Centrifan, put it in a cold room, set the temperature controller to 5 degrees, and you will be processing your samples, evaporating the solvent at 5 degrees. This works by controlling a heating element behind this black finned structure inside the lid. There's a temperature sensor here, and by driving the increase in the temperature of the heat sink, basically warms the gas flow that is recirculating inside and hits the set point. This will shut off the heater and basically servos at that point. Can the Centrifan PE evaporate solvent using an oxygen-free gas? To do oxygen-free drying in the Centrifan PE, there is the ability to introduce an inert gas at the rear of the instrument. When it's shipped normally, there's this jumper tube between the inlet and the outlet. By removing this tube from these two barbed fittings, you take two other connections. Presumably one is coming from your source of nitrogen or argon. Put that in place. By adding gas volume to the device, you've got to have an exit, you've got to have a bleed. So the second tube, you'd run to a hood or tape it to the inside of an elephant trunk. And by running just a bleed, very low level of nitrogen or argon gas, you will effectively displace the oxygen that's circulating inside the device that you captured when you close the lid. And the oxygen and any overflow will pass down this exhaust tube and go to the fume hood. How do you sustain the Centrifan PE cold trap over a long period of time? So it really depends on the solvents that you're working with. If you've got something like water or methanol, a frozen water bottle works just fine, keeps this cold enough so you get a good condensation rate. If you've got a more volatile solvent like hexane or diethyl ether, you might want to consider switching to ethanol and dry ice, and that will create a much colder environment. Kick up the condensation rate with those low boiling solvents and return a drier gas to the Centrifan PE. By sending a drier gas back here, it's more able to pick up new solvent and bring it over to the condenser. You'll increase the drying rate. Finally, if you've got DMSO, DMF solvents, very high boiling solvents that are going to take a while to evaporate, potentially overnight, the recommendation would be to get perhaps a chilled coil driven from a mechanical chiller or a mechanical cold trap like you might buy from Conco, and replumb the units. Don't even use the glass cold trap, but go to a mechanical trap instead in order to deal with the very long, potentially overnight evaporation times of some of the highest boiling solvents. Is there a way to stop the Centrifan PE without operator involvement? There is a version of the Centrifan PE called the PE-T for timer. The timer is shown here. It allows you to set an off time for the evaporation process. That allows you to either stop short of 100% evaporation if you need to keep your solute partially in solution, or if you've got an overnight run or you're leaving it on a Friday night and you won't be back until Monday morning, you can set this up to shut itself off in 2 hours after you know the samples are dry and you're not continuing to run the instrument needlessly all weekend. What are the green chemistry attributes of the Centrifan PE? The self-generating blowdown technology used by the Centrifan PE allows us to reuse the gas that causes the evaporation in your sample containers. The gas recirculates. Probably 90% of the gas flow recirculates through the fan. 10% is set through the cold trap. So the cold trap is constantly dehumidifying the gas flow, being returned to the Centrifan PE, allowing you to collect virtually 100% in the condensate flask here, of the evaporated solvent that is generated by the Centrifan enclosure. Also, the unit is extremely low power. I mean, we have a heater here to warm this to 55 if necessary. The motor is very low power. The whole unit is less than 150 watts. So from that standpoint, it requires very little energy to drive the evaporation process. It's primarily self-generating blowdown, so you don't have to support a vacuum pump. You're not using an external source of blowdown gas. And so it's a very low energy consumer as well. Thank you very much for listening to this set of frequently asked questions about the Centrifan PE. Hopefully you've heard some information which will be useful to you in making a decision to add one of these instruments to your rotovap capacity in your laboratory. Please contact Modular SFC or any of our dealers using the contact information that you see on the screen. Thank you very much.